Setting up a testing server allows us to view and test the functionality of our entire web projects on our local machine. This avoids having to transfer the files to our production server every time we want to preview a file we have created or an update we have made to an existing file. It's very important to be able to test prior to uploading to your production server. This is primarily because any issue can be resolved during the testing process. This avoids unnecessary disruption in service if the changes you made contain bugs or other security vulnerabilities. Setting up a testing server on your Windows or Mac system can be done in a number of ways. Remember that for the purpose of this course, we are going to be working heavily with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, MySQL. Both MySQL and AP require a web server. In order to function, these languages communicate instructions directly to a web server. Languages such as HTML, SOS, JavaScript, and jQuery are known as client-side programming language. They only communicate with your web browser. If we were to develop a website without a database or IP, we would not require a web server to view the web page on our local machine. The web server will be using to communicate with our MySQL database, and script is a partial HTTP server. When installed your own Windows or Mac machine, this server runs in the background and provides essential services through various protocols and through different ports. Some of the essential services include HTTP on board 80, SMTP on board 25, DNS on port 53, and FTP on port 21. In addition to our Apache web server, we also need to install MySQL, MyAdmin, and to simplify the installation of all these components, we will be using a popular pre-packaged solution called One Windows Apache, MySQL, and or if you have a Mac or an MP. To install web server, visit webserver.com. The website may default to the French version, so I will go ahead and click on the English link. Next, we need to scroll down and select the web server version that best matches your system specification. If you are on the 32-bit system, you will need to click this first link here. If on the other hand you are on 64-bit system, you will click this link to check your system specification. You can open Windows Explorer and right click on the computer and select properties. Next to the label system type, you will see 64-bit or 32-bit. There are also important information that may be useful to you since I am on 64-bit system. I am going to go ahead and click on the 64-bit download link. This launch an alert box that provides some useful tips prior to downloading and installing them. This launches an alert box that provides some useful tips prior to downloading and installing them. This second one here is very important. There are two common errors that occur during installation. The first is SVCR110DLL file is missing, and the second error is VC runtime 140 dialog is missing. If you do get any of these errors while installing RAM, you will need to download and install Visual C++ redistributable for Visual Studio. And the second error is V6 runtime 140 dialog is missing. If you do get any of these errors while installing VM, you will need to download and install Visual C++ redistributable for Visual Studio, and I will just open this link to show you. That is what you need to download. You need to download and install it. So the first you just select your language and then click download, and then you download the file based on whether you are using a 64-bit or 32-bit system. If you are using 64, but you would check this and then click next. The download will begin, and once it's finished, you can run the setup. Now this is only if you do receive those two error messages. Since I already have this package installed on the system, I don't need to run the setup file. I will go ahead and click the download directly link to download web server installation. This download will start automatically and it will save to your download folder unless you specify it. Otherwise, I already have the installation file downloaded, so I have cancelled the download, and I am going to go my download page and I'm going to click on the installation file. Click next, accept the agreement and click next. By default, it will install onto my C drive and into the WAM folder. So unless you want to install into any other folder, just go ahead and click next. I have already had this installed on my system previously, so you probably won't get this message. So go ahead and click yes. You can create the desktop icon and quick launch icon, click next and then install. Now we will need to choose the default browser associated with the web. Since I use Google Chrome, I will go into the program files directory and then into the Google folder and select the Chrome application. And I'm going to select the Chrome file because I typically use Chrome a lot more than Internet Explorer. So I will choose that as my default browser, and you won't get this message again because I have all this file installed in the past. It's asking me if I want to overwrite a previous file. So I will just, once your installation is finished, it asks you to set up the SMTP server that people will use when using the function, the mail function. Now since we are going to be using the external SMTP server, we don't need to set up this thing up. So you can just leave the default setting and click next. We don't need to launch the server. We'll be doing that in the next lesson. So I will just uncheck that and click finish. And when I minimize my browser, you can see that the desktop icon was created and so the installation was successful. To install map server, visit map.info and then click the download button next to the map icon. Make sure you have the Mac operating system selected and click download. The file is fairly large, about 260 megabytes, so it may take a few minutes to download. I am going to cancel the download because I already have the setup file downloaded previously. I am going to cancel the download because I already have the setup file downloaded previously. So once your package is finished, just go ahead and double click on it to install. When prompted, click continue. Could continue again, agree to the terms. Now over here you are going to click customize and unclick the main preload, remove the check mark because we don't need the MedPro does have additional feature but it's not a free software. So we will be using the standard map installation which has all the services we need, and then click install. Type in your password in case you need to authorize the installation. So once it's been installed, just click the close button to close this dialog box. Now click launchpad and click on name. When the dialog box appears, click the preferences button here. We can configure some basic settings. We can specify to start the server when the map is open and shut down the server when map is closed. So to do that, put a check mark in the first option here and make sure the last checkbox is also selected. Make sure that the second and third checkbox are also checked off. Under the port tab, you can leave all the default settings. In the tab check off 5.6.10 is the default version that we will be using for this course, and under the web server tab, make sure that the Apache is checked off and then click OK. Now click the start server button, and what this is going to do, it's going to turn on the Apache server in my server. As soon as that happens, the default main page is going to load in your web browser, and if you are ready to this page in localhost 8888 value is the port assigned to the Apache server, and you will need to specify that anytime you plug in your localhost, you are allowed to access your web file. So this particular default page is located in your web group folder in the map directory, and we will come back to that in a second. This page does have some important information. First, if we click on the information, it gives all the information regard to your IP. Service running on our Apache server. The version is 5.6.10, and there is just quite a bit of other information. Some of it we will explore during the remainder of this course, but for now it's just important to know where you can find this information. To access my admin, which we will be doing later on this course as well, you just click on the link, and this is the database administration tool. So again, we won't get into this right now. It's just important to know where to access it. This is the host for your MySQL database. So we are running it on localhost on our local computer. The port is 8889. This is very important. The root username and password, they are both root, and the password is also root. Since a lot of the tutorials are conducting on a Windows machine, where Windows web installation does not require a root password. So this is one important consideration during some of the lesson in this course. We will not be specifying a password for our database connection. In this case, you will need to put in root. Now we will come back into this more detail as we progress through the course, but just remember that you will need to specify this password anytime we establish a connection to our database through our script, not to access your file web directory. This is a folder that we will store all our websites. Just click on the finder and then click on the application, and then just look for the map. This is the folder. The docs folder is where all your website will be stored. No, right now it's empty because we have no website. But see, for example, we wanted to develop a website called my website. In that case, we create a new folder, and you don't have to do this. It's just for demonstration purpose. So now we have a folder in here called my website, and all our HTML file or files, whatever the case may be, would be stored in this folder. Now if we wanted to access the web page in this folder to our web browser, we would plug in my website and then the file name. So for example, index.html or whatever the case may be, I will go ahead and I will just transfer a demonstration file. You will be doing this later on in this section. So don't worry about it for now. So I have pasted a file in here called connect, and all the file does it is a simple script that does our database connection. So we want to be able to see if our script is able to establish a connection to our MySQL server. So you can see that we have plugged in all the parameters. Our localhost username is root, password is root, and then some of the sentence for creating a database connection, all of which is going later on in this course. So after my website, I'm going to plug in and connect dot, and it says connected successfully. That means that all my SQL server is running, and the script was able to connect with the database server. And that's also what we mean by you have to plug in your root password. Windows user will not have to enter password, but you will. This is very important because your database connection won't work unless you plug in the correct username and password. So just go ahead and delete this because we don't need it. Okay, now back in the main folder, there is a very few important configuration file that we'll be using later in this course, and you might want to just make a note of this for reference purpose. First, in our configuration folder, in the Apache directory, we have a file called FTP.com. This file stores very important setting for the Apache web server. Some of these will be modified later on this course. So again, just keep a note of the location of this file. Next, in your configuration directory in the 5.6.1 folder, because remember that the version of we are using for this course, there is iron file. In this file contain important setting for the servers which is running on the Apache server. So again, we will be going over a few of these later on this course. So far now, just important to know where the file is located. And lastly, in the bin folder, then in the admin directory, we have a file called config.dicp, and this file contains important configuration setting relevant to the main admin installation. So that is any other important file which you need to make a note of. So for now, we are not actually making any changes to the file. So I will close this. I will close down the map directory. Okay, and that's it for now. Once you have completed these steps, you can go ahead and close down your web browser. You can leave the map server running because we will be using it in the upcoming lesson. So I just go ahead and minimize that. Once you have one browser installed, launch the server by double-clicking on the WAMP icon. You will see the WAMP icon appear in your system tray. The icon will transition from red to orange to green. If your icon is still on orange, it means one of the servers in one browser did not load properly. Common issue if you have a Skype running before attempting to launch a server. Since some of the Skype services operate on the same port is server port 80, there will be conflict between the two applications. Turn Skype off and try to relaunch the server again. If the problem persists, you may need to consult a system administrator for further assistance. Once this icon turns green, click on it to bring up the WAMP menu. From this menu, we can do a number of things. First, we have the ability to restart, stop, or start all the WAMP services. This includes Apache, MySQL, and it's normally a good idea to restart WAMP after you make changes to any of the configuration files. Next, you will see a number of sub-menus in the quick access file. The first is Scale menu. Here you can get the ministerial version. In the servers first, in the service subfolder, you can also stop, restart, or uninstall the MySQL service. We can see the version is 5.6.17. The minuscule console allows you to execute command through a command console. Administrating MySQL database through command line is fairly technical. For this reason, we will be working with MyAdmin later in this course. MyAdmin allows for quick and easy database administration through a graphical user interface. However, we will be gain some exposure to working with command line when we configure our own live production server with the cloud hosting provided to and iFile is part of its configuration file for the MySQL services. For now, you can leave the file with this default configuration. Similar to the MySQL menu, we have also a menu. Here we can check up the IP version, configure setting, and enable or disable the extension. Our version is 5.5.12. Take a moment to confirm that your default settings are the same as that we have here. We will explore some of the relevant ones later in this course. The I and the I file contain important settings for your configuration. Next, we have the party menu. In this menu, we can check the Apache version. We can stop, restart, or remove the service. You can also test port 80 to make sure it's used by a port to do so. Just click on the test port 80 button, and you can see here that the server Apache and you are using 80. And you can see here that the server Apache and we are using port 80. The .com file contain important configuration setting for a port. The .com file contain important configuration setting for a port server, and for now we will just be leaving the default configuration setting. The www directory is the web root folder. All your website and website files just be stored in this folder. Using the web root folder for the web page allows us to the test dynamic scripts such as files that interact with our MySQL database. Files that are stored outside this directory will not function. In the next lesson, we'll test a few sample scripts to make sure that the pages inside your folder are working correctly. Next, we have a quick access link to MyAdmin. MyAdmin is a database administration tool that we will be working extensively with later in this course. My project folder contains a listing of all the website folder in your web root folder localhost. Quick access link will launch your web browser with the default server page. We will be exploring this page later on, but it is a quick overview. It contains information about your Apache version. It also lists your loaded extension and MySQL version. We can access certain tools like the information file and admin. We can also access our website folder under the other project heading. In this lesson, we will place two files in our web root folder to make sure all the services including MySQL that are all working correctly. In your download folder, there are two files corresponding to this lesson, test and connect. Test that contains a file script to output some tests in your web browser. Connect dot contains a script that will establish the connection to your MySQL server to make sure the server is running. Open your web root folder and through the want menu and place to test that file and connect that file into the folder. Now open your localhost page through the want menu. In your web address bar type testing after the localhost. You should see the word hello world display in your web browser content area. This means it is running correctly. Now we please test the with.connect. You should now see the word connected successfully appear in your web browser. This means that MySQL is running correctly.
Like, subscribe and press the bell icon of GetCitement for future updates.